off and had the Giants jersey on. I was like, this is great.
That's great.
Former Ranger, great.
But by skills competition, like I know at the Pro Bowl in the NFL, they have the thing where the quarterbacks throw it into that little circle thing when they're doing it. Would it not be cool to see MLB players try to hit it into like a little circle, like Wii Sports?
Or bunting it. Bunting it is a certain thing. You need a bunting competition. I know we're not allowed to bunt anymore.
Never bunt. They should have a bunting competition about not bunting.
And then each player that gets it in a certain circle gets to take a shot or something.
They should make one of those, I don't know who, some player with a low batting average, everyone wants them to bunt against the shift, and have them compete in it, and it would be hilarious if they won it.
Like Joey Gallo.
I was trying not to say his name again, but, here we are.
Am I a bad person that bunting for a base hit is one of my favorite plays in baseball?
Yes.
I love bunting for a base hit.
I
love it.
Okay, so I think that there's a caveat to the never bunting thing, because I'm a never bunter. I don't want everybody to bunt unless you got Joey Gallo up with nobody on the left side of the
But didn't you also have
Bryce,
one of the fastest players in all of MLB history?
You can't bunt a dinger.
Jeff? So you don't want Billy Hamilton going up there in red and bunting the ball.
There are certain guys.
I want that. Yes.
Billy Hamilton is definitely a caveat.
But I don't want the moving the runners over thing. No.
I think if we add exit velocity on the bunt as a weighable metric and the way to judge a player's ability to bunt, if we're going there, fan graphs, let's do it.
And exit barrels can you get?
I mean, we are in the Statcast era.
Did you notice I said bunting for a base hit? I didn't say bunting the runner over. I said bunting for a base hit is one of my favorite plays.
Yes. Like seeing Kenny Lofton videos of him bunting to get on base was so fun.
Otis Nixon was amazing doing that when he would do it. Ricky, Vince Coleman doing that.
Didn't Willie McGee do it a lot?
Willie McGee did it a lot, and I think with a lot of the shifts, I would love to see. I don't want to see freaking Giancarlo Stanton laying one down. But if you got a guy with decent speed and he sees, they're shifted a little bit over there, I'm just going to bunt it down there. What I love in baseball is chaos. I love chaos.
Well, speaking of chaos,
we have another to add to our midst. He is a fan of a team that has been even more, how shall we say, Jekyll and Hyde than the Seattle Mariners. He is Connor Thomas.
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Wow.
Yes,
How's
sir.
it going, man?
PA has officially outnumbered everybody in this group. We are very happy. Also, speaking of chaos, I didn't think that's what you were referencing, Jeff, but Acuna almost had a triple there if the ball boy doesn't go and stop the ball for a double.
They both ball boy. Speaking of bunting, last year I believe Yordan Alvarez was in a slump, and he asked his dad what he should do. His dad said, "Bunt. If you can't get on by hitting, bunt." And he bunted against the shift, and he got on base. And nobody expected Yordan Alvarez to bunt, like the last person on the planet, and he did it.
Right. Well, I tell you what, we've done a little bit of AL West talk, and we don't have any other NL East folks to come in here and do some trash talk with us. I was kind of hoping to get Ryan.
I will take over as the Mets so that I can trash talk.
No, you don't get the Mets. You don't get the Mets. Their representative not here. Doesn't count.
Nobody gets to pick the Mets.
Hey, I'll pick the Nationals.
Actually, I'll pick the Braves. I was in Atlanta this weekend, so I guess by proxy that kind of counts.
You were in Georgia and didn't even come see me, Bryce. Appreciate it, man.
No,
Thanks.
I was busy.
We're gonna see.
How dare a Crimson Tide fan come to Georgia?
As the National League takes a lead on Shane McClanahan.
Would have never happened if Martin Perez started.
Well, there you go. Connor, we got the chance to talk with Seattle, and I didn't set this up willingly as if like it's where all of the Reds from last year went to all these team-ins. That's who I'm talking to. But as the current team that has Nick Castellanos in the lineup,
do they? Because I haven't seen much from him. Is he there?
Had a good year, has he? Yeah,
if you see him, let me know, because we've been looking for him since early June.
It's a bummer. But what about, let's start with this. Schwarber last night. Did he fall on a sword for Albert Pujols?
No. It kind of looked that way, right? It was weird how he came out, and then, now here's the thing, with the time limit, if it's number of outs tying a guy perfectly and going to a swing off is like a little little bit more believable to me with the time limit. It's kind of hard to time that up. How do you guys? I want to pull the room a little bit too. How are you guys feeling about like the miscounting of the home runs? Did they?
Yeah, there's a literal.
They did. It was rigged.
It's like
video.
we got like a
rigged.
baseball Zapruder film of if
Yes.
the home run derby was.
He
that was
tied it
kind
up.
of unfortunate.
What is
Yeah,
going on?
yes.
Are we really gonna go climbing over ourselves over the home run freaking derby? It's
Yes.
just fun.
Yes,
Yeah.
we are.
It's
Right?
fun.
No, but ESPN clearly miscounted. It was obvious. I went back and watched it, and it was
Oh
pretty
my
freaking
God! What a
obvious.
freaking play, dude!
It was.
Was that
it was
Jimenez
bad.
and Anderson?
I mean, he got 20 home runs. Swing off
Yeah.
with the old man Albert Pujols. I'm just saying, it's not a big deal. But
No,
yeah, he
I
got
mean,
screwed.
Look, I watched
was
the
so
first 7 swings of Albert Pujols where he like let like 6 pitches go by, or it was probably like just 2, and then like hit 5 balls to like the warning track, or like not even the warning track, and then I got off and just recorded my episode for that. I'm like, this is gonna be so boring. I'll get back on when it's the finals.
Well, I thought Albert Pujols needed Brad Lidge on the mound because the last Albert Pujols home run I remember was I was there in person.
Too soon. Too
Crushed our
soon.
souls.
Too soon.
Well, and
Too
that thing
soon.
with the
I'm
home run
still
derby
trying
that I
to
think is
come down.
very underrated about it is whoever your pitcher is means a lot. Like Soto
Corey
and
Seager's
Rodriguez,
dad.
yeah, like they were doing good. And I was like, so it was always funny. Everybody was getting on him. He's like, why does he keep asking to push the mound back? It's so he could see the ball. I mean,
Yeah.
it was. I mean, I didn't mind it at all.
I would love it if one of the hitters said, I want to roll this Chapman. But just put a roll this Chapman in there, because I know I'm going to hit a ton of home runs. off
NL
that guy.
Central represent, baby.
Where's
But-
Lucas and JD? They're supposed to be joining. They're going to go crazy. Paul
Goldie.
Goldschmidt, very
Okay, you
possibly
guys.
the NL MVP. Oh my gosh.
All right.
Wait, a
All right,
Cardinals
guys.
player scored a run. We didn't see a lot of that when we were out there.
So, thanks for
All right,
joining
have-
us, man.
Have fun, you all.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Sully.
man. Thanks
Cheers,
for
Love you,
joining us.
Sully.
Well,
Oh,
that
man.
geez, then that was a rocket too.
Yeah.
So my
Did he
feet
get asked
just,
to participate in the Derby?
Yeah.
My goodness, that's
so
little
my
right
feet,
down Broadway.
Jeff, hey Jeff, when I left and came back, my feet just now showed up on my channel. So I've got some. Hopefully, I had about 10 or 11 people sitting there waiting, going, "Hey, where is the show?" So hopefully we'll start seeing some Astros traffic come into. I know Bryce has some kind word for the Astros
I'm
fans.
gonna have to hop out.
Nationals legend Trey Turner.
Oh,
But I
Yes.
say, and coming back kind of a little bit to the NL
Yeah.
East talk, as oh my goodness, maybe Martin Perez should have started.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
We'll come back to the NL East talk because I was looking at the standings as we go into the All-Star break, and the once looking undefeatable New York Mets are only 2 wins ahead of the Braves, which really, sitting there in Philly, you got to look at that and say, not that far off either. Like, is it just the wild card at this point, or do you think the East is assailable?
It kind of feels like just the wild card. With Bryce Harper, you can talk about the East. But, man, missing
that's
him for another month or so, however long it's going to be, the wild card is really the focus. And, hey, we haven't made the playoffs for over a decade at this point. So, any way you get in, I'm not trying to be greedy. That's kind of how this fan base feels a little bit. And a lot of people have resigned themselves, not just to the wild card, the third wild card spot, because chasing down the Braves is going to be difficult. Chasing down the Padres is going to be difficult there. But an easy schedule for the Phils. So hopefully we'll be in at least the wild card spot. The division, though, that's the Mets and the Braves duking it out. And maybe something crazy will happen.
Was
Was
Cliff
the-
Lee on the last team in the playoffs for the Phillies?
Yeah, he was.
I remember the last team well, as a Mets
Yeah.
fan.
Yeah, sorry about that. It didn't go much better for us in the next round. But, yeah, that first game was fun for us, wasn't it?
Oh my gosh! Rest in
I
peace,
will also
Roy.
go out
Rest
on
in-
a, like a obvious point here and say the Contreras brothers starting the All Star game together is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Probably
did
the
love
coolest
that.
part of this game.
Certainly.
Yeah, I love the fact
Yeah.
because
That's cool. I saw that.
like seeing them both in the starting lineup as well. Like, I mean, they both had amazing first halves. That's not saying that they were just, given starting spots so that they could be there. But the fact that they've had such a great first half and they get recognized that way, I mean, they probably only dreamed of something like that as kids. And here you are right there on Dodger, right there in Chavez Ravine getting to do it.
Also,
So,
are
hey,
Rays
I've got a
fans like
question,
shaking right now?
Yes.
Yes.
I've got a question
yes.
for I've got a question for Ethan. What players are there players in the Pirates organization right now that you would want to see them trade and get a good return on? Like, are there players that you guys could trade and actually benefit from trading, or do you like what you have? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I know you guys are where you are, but what are the players you see on your team? Because I know the Astros, and I assume that I don't know if the Phillies are in the market for the trade deadline, but I
Brian
assume
Reynolds looks awfully nice right now.
Okay, well, I mean, I think there's a lot of contending teams out there, and I'm just wondering what your thoughts are. If you guys have anybody that you think would get you guys something in return.
Nothing major, no. Jose Quintana is probably the most realistic trade chip that's going to get you anything back, and he's on an expiring deal. You maybe trade Ben Gamble or Marisnik. You maybe trade Kevin Newman. You maybe trade Vogelbach, but they've already pretty much said Reynolds and Bednar aren't going anywhere. So that's the crazy part of like what has been asked about Reynolds is last year, if you remember, they were asking for 2 top 100 prospects for Reynolds. Now you see Soto on the trade market, and everybody's like, wow, why is this price so high? I'm like, because Brian Reynolds' price was also astronomically high, and I'm a Pirates fan, but Brian Reynolds isn't exactly Juan Soto. He's not a pushover, but he's not exactly Juan Soto. But I think the Pirates are, and Jeff has talked about this, that he thinks next year is our fun year, where he thinks that the Pirates are going to be like in the mix. So I think we have just enough talent now to kind of say, all right, let's hold off on the trade button and like not blow everything up again. But it is also the Pirates. So if I wake up one day and see Brian Reynolds got traded to the Phillies for Mark Appel and like 2 prospects, it wouldn't surprise me.
Best we could do is Mickey Moniak.
Mickey Moniak? Yeah.
That's what we can do.
Wow.
Well, Phillies fans clearly, I don't even, this is actually a question for you, Connor, because I don't get to talk to you that much or Phillies fans that much, but what is the deal with Alec Bohm? Do Philly fans like him or do they hate him? I never know. I never know. I really don't. It's like 1 minute he's the best player ever.
Yeah, that's kind of the Philadelphia sports fandom. It really depends on the day. It's day to day.
Yeah, trust me. I know about Philly sports enough to know that it depends on the day. Looking at you, Locked On 76ers.
Yeah. Overall, though, I'd say he's become a likable person in this locker room for this team, partially because of the whole incident earlier where he was caught mouthing that he hates this place, like very early in the season, and then kind of owning up to it after the game brought him some favor with the fan base, believe it or not. And he's actually been pretty productive for them. He's gone back to the 2020 type of Alec Bohm that almost won him NL Rookie of the Year, which is just a clutch hitter. Not a lot of power still, but he's had some clutch hits, and those guys need to carry more of the weight with Bryce Harper and Gene Segura out, and he's been doing part of that. So, yeah, relatively on the likable side right now.
Well, see, I think in Philly, y'all just have a different way of showing love. I mean, y'all want Santa to bring you presents every year, but you still throw batteries at him. I mean, so love is a different way. It's just a different way of loving things. It's called tough love, right? It's like the Philadelphia way, right?
Well, I appreciate you making that joke before I could, as the Cowboys fan in the room.
Well, H-Town, if you knew about the Philadelphia Flyers and the circus that is, you wouldn't blame Philly fans for taking out their anger on other teams.
Really?
Yeah, that's not fun right now. Not a good time to be a hockey fan here, but luckily I'm only a baseball guy.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
What are we doing here? This is not locked on NHL.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Wait, you gonna bring in some Clipper stuff now?
Maybe.
Would you drive
Luka
on Saturdays?
I'm gonna turn this into Around the Horn. I'm just gonna start muting people.
Wow, I got the mute button placed on me, baby. Let's go.
We got Sandy Alcantara on the mound. That I think this is gonna be a nice clean inning. This dude, honestly, he was the biggest argument as to who should have started the game if you were just going by first half performance. But the story of Clayton Kershaw and Chavez Ravine and all this other stuff, there's obviously not much of an argument there. But who else has been better than Alcantara on the mound this year? He has been phenomenal.
Well, he wouldn't have shown it in that first inning, but McClanahan's been pretty. He has been pretty good.
Yeah, I think McClanahan in the AL is the only other true contender for the Cy Young outside of Justin Verlander. I think they're clearly 1 and 2 or 1 and 1A, and you could put one on
Martin
top of the other.
Perez, for real, he really has been that good. He hasn't been quite the same since May, but like he is still like should be in that conversation. Should get some votes in that conversation because he has been so good and so consistent. I mean, you saw it firsthand with that incredible game. Like one of my favorite Ranger games of all regular season games was that game in Houston where he had that complete game shutout and dedicated it to Tony Beasley, third base coach, who had just been officially declared cancer free. Just like really emotional moment, really great game. And the fact that he had runners on base with the last out, and Woody comes out there and says, "Hey, you got this," and lets him stay in there to get the complete game shutout was just like really great moment.
No, yeah, he's always pitched us tough, and whenever he's on the mound, we're like, okay, hopefully he can be at some pitch limit in the 5th inning so we can get some runs. So he's been a guy that whenever trade deadlines come up, we're like, hey, I was like, why don't they look at Perez? Like, you know what I'm saying? Because he's
not going
good.
Anywhere.
Well, no, that's the kind of pitcher he is. He's a rival that you want on your side of the plate. You don't want to face.
It's okay. You guys already have Paul Blackburn ready for you.
We do. We are. I saw
already
that.
chartering the guy.
A little freaking tampering. That was awesome. I was like, yes. And I was. I didn't do it, but I was going to tweet out the Astros have agreed to bring Luis Castillo through Houston on their private jet and fly him back to Cincinnati fly a couple Astros players back,
And this is where the Paul Blackburn story really like kind of made me laugh a little bit because not necessarily of what the A's did to him, but I'm pretty sure Luis Castillo had to drive to LA because the Reds are reallocating payroll to resources.
They're also busy finally building an indoor facility for their football team in Cincinnati, so
I always love that. It's such a weird. It's like a weird thing that they have that they still haven't built one. It's like, why? You're in Ohio. Like, build an indoor facility already. I tell you what. Before we continue on this thought process, we have another guest. He's joining in from the NL West. So we're gonna have 3 West and 3 not West folks as Hobby Reyes was in the bullpen. Now he's not in the bullpen. He'll be back. So
just like the Padres, he disappears after he's doing
There
good.
We go. Oh, yeah. And we got the hot take from Ethan on the way in.
Sorry, my bad.
Man.
I thought you were going to give him the A.J. Hinch Garrett Cole treatment, like warm up and then sit down. Sorry,
I love Frozen Hobby.
I think his internet.
Frozen Hobby is the best.
He's
in there somewhere.
Yeah, he's in there somewhere.
We'll see if we can get him back. But
that's the Joe Girardi. You go to the bullpen, the guy's not actually on the roster for the day. You guys remember that one?
Also, if my eyes didn't deceive me, if you guys want to know the state of the Pirates and the Reds here, I have a regular Baja Blast in my hand. If I'm not mistaken, I think Mr. Jeff Carr over there has a... Oh, is that not the hard one?
No, it's 0.
Oh,
Zero
okay.
sugar.
Sorry. Well, 0 for other things, but what are the playoff chances for the Reds right now? If I don't mind you asking or
Is it 0?
answering, 0. Okay.
Mountain Dew 0, and probably for next year as well. Just because they were that close, they were right there, and they're like, nah, we're not gonna bring back Castellanos. That costs money. Nah, we're not going to keep the guys we have on the roster, like Jesse Winker and Eugenio Suarez and Wade Miley and Tucker Barnhart, and we're just going to give those. And Sonny Gray. Now, I like some of the prospects they got back, but they weren't they weren't entering a rebuild. They just entered their window of contention, and they just slammed that window shut. They're like, nah, we don't want to pay for that.
Hey, at least you have Hunter Green.
Yeah.
Now, what about Tyler Mahle?
He's definitely available.
But is he up? Is he down? I haven't really followed him since he's come onto the scene. I followed him as a prospect, but I don't really know much about him. Like what's the read on him?
He is inconsistent, but when he is good, he is good. He almost had a no-hitter earlier this year. I think it was against the Cubs, if I remember right. But he pitches phenomenally well when he's got all of his pitches working. The biggest issue is if his slider is just a waste pitch that day, that means he's going to have a tough day, because when he's off, he's going full count with just about everybody on the other lineup as they step into the batter's box, because he will be that guy too. He'll start a guy off with strike one, strike two, and you're like, here we go. Then he tries to become Rembrandt and paint the corners, and he's throwing ball after ball after ball, and he's walking guys, he's giving up hits because he has to throw an obvious strike. I love him, and I think that if he gets with maybe a little bit of change of scenery, a different pitching coach, maybe they can create that consistency. But there's just, it feels like you almost flip a coin, because, like I said, when he's good Mally, the Reds can win, even with the lineup that they have. But bad Mally's not going to help you. So I think that I probably the biggest thing with him is combining him with Brandon Drury and really turning that into a huge trade package there for the Reds. But
Bad Mally, a.k.a. Bally.
Valley Sports Cincinnati.
Bryce.
Yeah, exactly.
Alec Manoah.
But
is Manoah pitching now? Because my feed went out on my TV, so I'm not even watching it.
Yeah.
Manoah versus
Contreras, number 2.
Our esteemed Lindsey Crosby's comp to Kumar Rocker was Alec Manoah. Now that's the 100 percentile, like if everything goes right, but you know.
So 100% guaranteed he's going to be that. Is what you mean?
Or 100%, or 75.543.2% that he's going to be right-handed Aroldis Chapman.
Ooh.
There's that too.
Hey,
and I don't see it in
Chapman.
between. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's bad if he's right-handed Aroldis Chapman, but
I know that is like the just coldest of takes when it comes to Yankees fans, but I love Chappie. I miss him. He pitched against the Reds in the series with the Reds won 2 out of 3, by the way. But,
great
death
series.
taxes,
phenomenal.
Death taxes, and the Pirates and Reds handling the Yankees.
He must have been listening. His ears must have been burning, because we talked about a comp that he had, because he's on the mound right now, Alec Manoah. So we've got the man, the myth, the legend, Lindsey Crosby joins the
There he
show.
is.
Hey, there he is.
Hey, folks. It's my
guy-
favorite host, Saying Connor.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Not to be confused with awesome violinist Lindsey Sterling. It is Lindsey Crosby.
Oh,
Not
wow.
the other Lindsay that I get. Bing Crosby's youngest son was Lindsay, so that's the one I usually get. Yeah.
Well, and the fact that his handle is Crosby Baseball, which is my high school alma mater, and I joked with him the first time we had a show. I said, I think you're like copyright infringing on Crosby Baseball.
It's their bad for not snagging that first.
Is this going to be the All-Star game where all the pitchers just like dominate, except McClanahan?
That's
Angel
baseball.
Hernandez is behind the plate, right?
Yes.
Is
Yeah,
he?
'cause that was not a strike.
No, I didn't know this.
Now,
That was not a. I love how you had to ask first. You're like, wait.
Yeah,
is he
that was
really?
not right.
Is he really
Yeah,
umpiring?
he's
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 got
wearing,
the
he's wearing a
bad.
camera.
yeah, he has the. That's what I was talking about earlier with the cam. It's hilarious.
They felt bad because they didn't let him do the playoffs a couple of years ago.
No, he's such a whiner, that guy. So, Lindsay, you've been working overtime, brother. Hey, man, I've got
working.
Busy man.
I've got Jeff coming on. I'm doing a show covering I think 3 through 6 and 7 through 10 picks tonight. And that little quick hit we did, man, crushed it. You did a great job. Thank you for helping me with that.
Thanks. It's this is the like you love all the stuff to talk about, but at the same time, it's a lot to talk about. I'm working on the next 2 shows, and it's like, hey, cool. If I want to talk about every team in 2 shows, I get 2 minutes per team to talk about. You drafted 20 players. There's 616 picks, and I'm like, oh man, I could talk about this thing for weeks and never be done. You know, like Bryce, what your Rangers did, the Rocker Porter combo. I mean, just setting that up at the very beginning, and wild.
It was not. I'm still gonna like whine and moan a little bit, but like I know what they did. It wasn't my ideal strategy, but I can still see like that was a like they big brained me. I mean, they faked me out real hard, and like I was, you know, a whiny emotional mess on Sunday night. But I'm much happier today than I was, you know, 2 days ago.
Is that Angel Hernandez? I don't think that had the cam going while he got smacked in the face by a foul ball. So that was interesting.
That's good content right there.
And they're right back to it again.
That's the way to do it.
That's the way to do it.
So hey, Lindsay, one of the things I noticed about the Astros is they didn't draft any high school pitching prospects. They've had their fair share of issues with those. Mm-hmm. And I noticed they picked a lot of really tall. They got a 6'6" catcher. I mean, this kid's huge.
O'Neal Cruz has unlocked a lot of doors as far as what you can do height-wise. A lot of height, like unusually short and tall guys went this draft. There was a 7-foot pitcher, and I think the 18th round today. There was also a 5'10" pitcher that went late yesterday, a 5'10" righty. It's like 5'10", 210. Like he's Alejandro Kirk, but on the mound.
Oh, so he's Bartolo Colon.
Nice.
He's essentially Bartolo. Bartolo Colon was taller, though. Remember the shot of him and Pujols together? Bartolo, I think, was like, wasn't he like 6'3", 6'4"?
I think so, yeah.
He was over 6 foot.
But like teams have been willing to go outside the models a little bit to get the unusual guys. I think maybe it's because of the models. They're getting them despite the scouts not liking them because the models are like, well, spin rate's really good, or, you know, he's really good at this or that. So it's been amazing.
There's a quote that I just saw from Rob Manfred about, I know what we were talking about earlier, about All-Stars wearing their own team jerseys. He praised Nike and said, quote, "I never thought that a baseball team wearing different jerseys in a game was a particularly appealing look for us," end quote. Man, he's really 0 for today.
Yeah, I don't want to get in trouble here, but Rob Manfred has said some dumb things today. Said some very stupid things today.
It's been a day for Manfred Hates Baseball. My goodness, like
he needs Scott Boras over his shoulder watching what he's saying.
Yeah.
He needs Scott Boras to just write him a script.
I reject the premise that they are not paid a living wage. I'm like, well, you can reject it all you want. It's still true.
Well,
I reject that 4 is bigger than 3. Okay, Rob, like you're still wrong.
Well, I'm convinced the same guy that writes his speeches is the guy that wrote the initial speech when Altuve and Bregman were forced to say something about 2017, and it was very awkward, and it looked very insincere, and they got absolutely blasted for that. I'm like, there's some evil troll in MLB that has some demonic power over Rob Manfred in these certain things that these people say this stuff, and you're like, you got to be kidding me. Like, this is not even for real, you know?
I think the evil troll is Rob Manfred.
No, he has a bad Rob Manfred on his shoulder, and then like another worse Rob Manfred on his shoulder.
I understand the concept of the commissioner. Same thing in the NFL. Like your job is to take all the criticism so that the owners don't take the criticism. Like we're yelling at Rob Manfred for talking about because of the minor league salary thing, so that we don't yell at Dick Monfort for the minor league salary thing. But
we should yell at all of them.
Make it so much worse every time you open your mouth. The hunk of metal thing, the reject the premise they're not paid a living wage, the jersey. Like every time you say something, it makes it worse, and it's an amazing ability to just ruin things.
Well, and the whole idea of I reject the premise they're not paid a living wage. Like, did he have to sound like Lex Luthor when he said that? Like that's what I heard whenever I read
like that's not your truth. That's my truth.
Yeah, and he rejects the premise because there were one is he's like, if you ignore the signing bonuses that many of them get, it's like, yeah, but many of them don't get much. He's like, they've received housing. It's like, they've not received housing. Many of them have received a bedroom. Like right. They're sharing rooms with people still, especially the lower affiliates. And like if you reject the premise they're not paid a living wage, why did I interview somebody on my show that has an organization called Adopt a Minor Leaguer that tries to get food for them?
Right. Now I do know that Jim Crane did that for the Astros minor leaguers before Major League Baseball made that move, which was really cool. And
that's the one thing that I will genuinely applaud the Astros for, is like that was a really great, genuinely good thing that like helped move everybody forward.
we provide minor leaguers housing. We provide rides to All Star games for potential free agents. I mean, no trash cans were harmed.
Well, we don't know that. Allegedly,
I feel like
no
we have to
trash
wrap
cans were
up on that. That was brilliant.
Are the Astros just basically Motel 6? We'll leave the light on for you. Like,
Yes, Tom Bodette owns the Astros. He goes by Jim Crane, but his name's Tom Bodette.
Just make sure you leave the shirt on for him too if you hit a walk off.
To ruin the mood on some of this, there are still teams. Here's the thing: the Astros are one of, I believe I'm looking at now, 13 teams that do not provide each player their own bedroom at every affiliate. High A and single A teams, the players are still sharing bedrooms with other players.
Oh,
It's
really?
not until you reach Double A that you are guaranteed to have your
Even
own
the Astros?
bedroom. Even the Astros.
So is that like
really?
the equivalent of my studio apartment, but there would be another person here?
It's like a
It's like a
in
dorm.
essence, yeah. It's like a dorm setup.
It's
Dude,
like in
that's
college where
not
we had
okay.
2 desks and we put one bed on top of the 2 desks and we
Yeah.
made a de facto bunk bed.
To be
Now,
fair,
everybody-
it is
I'm sorry.
bad. It is bad, but it is also progress, which
It is
I feel
progress.
like should be like acknowledged, but not necessarily
Yes.
applauded because it should be going further. Because I mean, there used to be like 6 guys to like a 2-bedroom apartment. Like it used to be even worse than it was.
Guys
And,
sleeping in
like,
their cars.
Yeah, exactly. Like there was a guy, Yohel Pozo, who was a Rangers minor league free agent, who literally lived in his car for like 2 months because he was a minor league free agent and like didn't know, like he had no like prospects. He wasn't sure what the heck was going to go on and like all kinds. Like it was a really dramatic and like heartbreaking story.
Yeah.
But like, and he's just one of like 800 guys that all have very similar stories.
Yeah, there
I
are
tell you-
4 teams that still do not pay their players an extended spring training, and I will name names if you want me to. Like
Do
we
it.
have places to go.
Well,
still.
I say this.
I can't
When's-
name names because one of them's here.
Go ahead and say.
Oh,
Who is it?
What is
Hey.
it, Survivor?
Who is it?
Somebody will be voted off tonight.
That's a team.
Find out
That's a
at
team.
9 Eastern time.
The Marlins, the Brewers, the Athletics, and the Reds do not pay their minor leaguers in extended spring training as of July 1st. It may
It's
have
a lot
changed
of
since
NL
then.
Central.
Yeah, it's a lot of that. I tell you what, though, we are going to have to end up on that. I want to do something real quick before we close out because it's been awesome.
Yeah.
Want to kind of give everybody the floor just for a few seconds. Tell me what you got going on. And we're going to start with the man himself who's been busier than everybody else. Lindsay, what you got going on?
Busy time at Locked On MLB Prospects. Right now, we are getting ready to drop American League and National League draft recaps. We are hopping on a bunch of shows to talk about some of our favorite drafts. Talking to the Rockies. I'm going to talk to the Rangers. He doesn't know that yet. We're talking to the Rays. We're talking to the Diamondbacks. I think that might be the best outfield in baseball in a couple of years. So I'm on Twitter at Crosby Baseball. The show's on Twitter at Locked On Farm. You can follow us wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube, just look for Locked On MLB Prospects.
And he's the man who's got a team that's surging and a real good shot at a wild card spot in the AL East. Connor, what's going on in Locked On Phillies?
A lot of stuff with Locked On Phillies. We're doing a review of one of the weirder first halves of a Phillies season ever. A fired manager, a hurt superstar, a resurgent bullpen, all of that good stuff to review the first half. A look at the trade deadline. We haven't really seen Dave Dombrowski in a truly buyer's set when it comes to the trade deadline here in Philadelphia, and he's ready to do that now. How much faith should we have in him? All of that leading up to the deadline is going to be some good stuff to keep us occupied on Locked On Phillies and a wild card chase. A lot of great stuff coming up.
I've always been jealous of those baby blue uniforms. The Reds just, well,
They're beautiful, man.
we don't have any. And let's move on over to the West because they're looking up right now at the New York Yankees, but I think the Yankees are also looking over their shoulders. What's Locked On Astros coming up, Brett?
Yeah, the Astros go into the playoffs somewhat, maligned with injuries, with Yordan, with Altuve waiting for McCullers to come back. But the big question remains for the second half is what moves will the Astros make, or do they feel like they are in a place to stand pat? Remember, they played 9 straight games against both the Mets and the Yankees and never were behind in a single inning against the Yankees. They lost 2 walk-offs by Aaron Judge. They went 7-2. The Mariners, they play 7 of the first 10 games coming out of the All-Star break. Not to mention, thank you, MLB Baseball, for giving us a doubleheader against the Yankees right after the All-Star break, hoping to sweep that. But the Astros have their work cut out for them. I don't foresee them giving up the lead to the Mariners. The Mariners can't win out the rest of the season. I don't believe that, but they are a very good team. A lot of respectable competition in the second half. And so follow the show at Locked On Astros on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Follow me at H-Town Wheelhouse on Twitter and Instagram. And remember, we're your team every day. We're always positive, always Stros.
And the Astros are going to be quite busy. I'm wondering if Luis Castillo is going to head down to Houston, but that's another conversation for another day. Speaking of Texas and baseball, and there's this one team that spent a lot of money this offseason, but we're trying to figure out where they are. Bryce, what do you got coming for us as the trade deadline looms?
So the Rangers are in a super weird place right now. I mean, they're coming off one of the most intriguing drafts. It might end up being a really, really great draft. I'll have to talk with Lindsey Crosby to figure out how great a draft this is. The Rangers are trying to figure out if they're buyers or sellers. Corey Seager is coming off an incredibly hot week, won AL Player of the Week honors. He and Marcus Semien, after a slow start, have started to figure out and look like the perennial all-stars the Rangers signed them to be. Can Martin Perez continue on his great first half? Can Adolis Garcia continue on his great first half and kind of figure out if he is a full season player or a guy who only has 2 hot months and then falls off a cliff? Really interesting time to be a Rangers fan and really interesting time to listen to Locked On Rangers, as is, any time.
Speaking of an interesting time to be a fan of a team, the Pittsburgh Pirates. They look like they're coming out of the doldrums. They look like they've got some exciting young players. The rest of this season's really just going to be figuring out what they got. But kind of like you said, Ethan, you don't think they're going to be that busy this trade deadline season. So what do you got going on for Locked On Pirates?
Going to be recapping the first half where they had the most players be on the 40-man, I think, in a long time for the Pittsburgh Pirates. It might have been an MLB record. Going to take a look at the second half, take a look at the Miami Marlins series that we have. I'll probably have Peter back on the show again this week, as well as talking trade deadline. I mean, there's pieces, but not as big as you would think as it was the past couple years. And I will even quote Jeff Carr and say he thinks my team will be fun next year. So hopefully we just get to 2023 sooner rather than later.
I do firmly believe the Pirates will be fun, and what else is going to be fun is the Reds trade deadline. They're going to be active sellers. I hope. They should be. If they're smart, they will be. And we'll be talking about all of that at Locked On Reds. Thank you so much for watching along with us, for enjoying our conversation. Hopefully you enjoyed our conversation. This is something we're going to do a little bit more often during the second half of the season, just kind of hang out and watch some baseball. But for now, we're going to be signing off. The Locked On MLB Hangout for the All Star Game.